Now we have a keynote on stepping into the human age by Anand Tamboli, award-winning author, innovator, and futurist. He will share the vital global trends in changing employee experience. We'll share some solutions to the challenges we are facing, etc. Let's welcome Mr. Tamboli. Over to you.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I'm excited and honored to talk to you about one of the most important things in your company: your employees, your team members, your human capital. So let me start by sharing my recent experience with a senior people manager from a big ASX listed company. Their employee engagement survey numbers came out last month and they were not quite encouraging. So this people manager sat with his team hoping to discuss potential improvements to improve engagement numbers. And he didn't seem to be asking the right questions. One of the questions in the engagement survey was about employees getting opportunities to improve their skills. But unfortunately, the majority of the employee responses were not in agreement. So the questions this people manager asked were like, tell me what trainings can we add to our L&D platform? Do we need to increase the frequency of these trainings? And a few similar things along those lines. And this is where the problem begins. My main argument for today's corporate world is that we need a different kind of innovation. We need to think differently to solve our modern problems. We need better ways to improve the employee experience. But if we keep thinking the same way as we did before, it can be challenging. It can be challenging to improve employee experience because the pandemic isn't over yet. And this hybrid work has added a new dimension altogether. We have to think significantly differently. Think about the earlier example. Instead of asking which training we should add or how frequently we should train you, wouldn't it be better to understand the underlying logic behind this response? Why not ask employees what their aspirations are, where they want to go, how they want to grow, not just in their professional life, but also personally? How and where do they see themselves in the next 2 to 5 years? And for them to do that, what types of skills are necessary? So when we get to the bottom of their aspirations, their intents, when we provide them with training opportunities, show them how that impacts their career and how they can grow professionally, don't you think they will be more engaged? Don't you think their experience will be way better than just enrolling them into a bunch of training courses? And thinking this way means one has to take a step back. Not just one step, but a few steps back. Deep dive into the engagement issues, their root causes, and address them while keeping current context in mind. The last 20 months have significantly changed the way people have thought about their careers. They are thinking differently about their lives, and many are rethinking their career choices. Let me share my 2 key observations here. First of all, whether it is work or life, everyone is looking for a purpose. People are essentially asking valid and more profound questions. They're asking, what is the point of all this? Why am I doing this? Where is this going? And we must answer it. Recently, one of the guests on my podcast told a curious story of a butcher. And this butcher had a small shop in a big local market of the town. There were also quite a few other butcheries, prominent brands in that market. But this one was consistently doing well. His shop would always be full. People would always love his product. So these big brands tried to buy him up. They offered him a good amount of money, and yet he didn't blink. They raised their offer and still he wouldn't budge. So they raised their offer even higher. so much so that he could take all that money and retire happily. But still, he sent them away. Finally, they brought him to the negotiation table and asked him, "We really need to go through this, so tell us, what do you want?" And he said, "Look, I don't want your money. I love my work. I want to keep working." So finally, they decided to revise their offer with initial amount, and they also added a 5-year contract term so that he could work as a business manager in the same shop, doing what he loved doing. And he accepted. He needed a purpose, something to look forward to, a meaning to his day, to his life. So if we put things in perspective, we have a better engagement. Secondly, people now want more personalization. They want career personalization to suit their career pattern, their life goals. So how can you offer that? And it's a big question. There is an interesting change we all can see in most organizations. Now we have at least 3 or maybe 4 generations in our employee mix. And it's one of the significant factors to consider. As we talk about employee experience, this becomes a big challenge because not everyone sees things the same way. Some employees value flexibility, others want stability. Some want variation, others don't want that variation. And that means we need to more personalize and less generalize. Let me give you an example. Let's say parental leave. You might think that your parental leave policy is excellent. You might think that it is one of the best value propositions of your company. But what if I already have young kids? How does that help me? What if I don't have kids and I'm not planning for one? So my circumstances could be different from my colleagues, and therefore what you are offering may or may not make sense for me. The fact is that despite popular opinion, COVID-19 did not accelerate the future. Instead, it just brought forward a tiny portion of it in the form of some technological changes, which skewed it completely. In principle, we haven't changed much. We used to go from meeting room to meeting room. Now we go from Zoom to Zoom. PowerPoint decks are still at the center stage, and the flood of emails hasn't receded. So why not think about how to reimagine and create a more dependable employee experience? How can we move beyond some incremental changes and make a step change? One of the structural changes you might want to think about is building a decentralized decision-making capability and autonomous teams. We know that most organizations were like a pyramid structure, and now they're flattening out. But I would argue that flattening is not helping much. Instead, it is creating more decision-making bottlenecks. Flattening is not a good solution in the current context. Think about distributed leadership. We already know that more people want recognition, more people want a sense of control, more people want autonomy. So if you are going to do that, you need to have more people leading. But if your current org structure doesn't allow that, you have to think differently and change it. Try distributed leadership model where more people can be in leadership roles, more people can act autonomously. And that way you can find a golden mean. A lot of employees also want to try new things, but if they can't do it within the company, they are now thinking of leaving and trying out. We all have seen a trend in resignations. So why not provide entrepreneurial opportunities within the company itself? Try special purpose teams who can be given autonomy to work on special projects. Let them flex their muscles as they would do in a startup or entrepreneurial environment. They still will be part of your company, but will have more vibrant and new experiences. Let me be very candid with you on this one. If you want to create a better employee experience, refurbishing the old stuff in digital format is not the best way. Every time I have to explain my point about this change with a touch of a humor, I refer to a scene from Hindi feature film, Fir Hera Feri. In this swimming pool scene, we see that despite significant changes in his circumstances, Babu Rao hasn't really changed. So Shyam encourages Babu Rao and tells him to get rid of that rope and take water with the bucket directly. And you would agree that despite being better than what Babu Rao was doing earlier, it's not the best solution. Not until Raju tells Babu Rao that he must jump into the pool and utilize it properly, and then he pushes him. Ladies and gentlemen, my point is this. What we are seeing now is only pandemic-induced change. It will be a mistake to call it the future of work. Instead of doing that, it's a perfect trigger to change many things at once. To bring in the real future of work, we must innovate our approach. We don't want to repeat our mistakes, and we certainly don't want to make efficient mistakes. The good part is that no one has seen how the future of work looks like. It is a greenfield area, and as a people leader, you can bring in transformative changes and become a business of the future. Show others what it is like to be the one. Our mindset defines our thoughts, and our thoughts drive our actions to get to the outcome. Over the past few years, work focus has moved significantly from process and efficiency to technology and disruption. And now it is on purpose, meaning, and belonging. I prefer to call it the human age. So instead of treating the coming year as the age of AI or some technological era, let's change how we look at it. My main argument still remains that we need to think differently to solve our modern problems. Let's change our outlook, our mindset, and our actions, because we are stepping into the human age.
Thank you, Mr. Tamboli, for bringing out the best from the topic. Now we'll proceed to the next session for more updates. I'm super excited about this one. Please do not forget to share your learnings and reflections with the outer community using the hashtag ETHRHCE and win exciting prizes. Stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen.